Hey, welcome to Practical Music Theory. In this video, we're going to talk about Roman numeral analysis. So, essentially what Roman numeral analysis is for every key, certain triads are naturally going to arrive as major, minor, or diminished. And Roman numerals are trying to capture that. So, let's take the example of C major. First, I'll just write out a C major scale. C major is a scale with no sharps or flats. So it's just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. All right, and then I'll just write triads on top. So I think of triads in this case as really just line, 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 or space, space, space. There's three notes. So F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, D. And then back to the tonic triad. Great. Now, every single one of these is going to have a Roman numeral associated with it, which is really just either a capital, meaning a big one, or a lowercase Roman numeral. All right, so this first chord is 1. And what we're trying to figure out by doing uppercase or lowercase is the quality. Is it a major chord? Is it a minor chord? Is it a diminished chord? And an uppercase Roman numeral with the lines on the top and bottom mean it's a major chord. Now, how do I know that the first chord is a major chord? Well, I first look at the quality of the interval between C and E. And that's a major third. And then, of course, G to C is a perfect fifth, which is one way to think about it, or a simpler way to think about it is this first chord is always going to be major in a major key. So C, E, G, that's a C major chord. Now, the next chord is going to be some kind of 2. Now, the question is it major, or is it minor, augmented, or diminished? And to answer that, I look at first, what is D to F? Is that a major or a minor third? And the answer is that's a minor third. And then, of course, it's a perfect fifth on top. So this chord is D minor or minor 2. Now, another way you can approach this, and the way I think about it, is I pretend for a second I'm in the key of D major. Now, this means that you have to understand how many sharps or flats are in the key of D major. And I'm sort of thinking about the circle of fifths for this. If you don't know about the circle of fifths, you can go ahead and watch the video on what is the circle of fifths, which I will link in the description. Now, if I was in the key of D major has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. I would expect for this F to be F sharp. But because it's F natural, and I know that that's not in D major and would be in D minor, that this is actually a D minor chord. And then, of course, my last check, that it's not diminished, is D to A is a perfect fifth, which I sometimes think about, how do I know it's a perfect fifth? I, again, think about the circle of fifths. If I'm at D major, which I'm thinking about like a clock, has 2 sharps, and I go over one more, right, that's A major, I add a sharp. D to A is a fifth because the circle of fifths going right around the circle is based on perfect fifths. So I know the second chord is D minor. Great. Next chord, I sort of think about, again, E to G. Is that a major third or a minor third? That is a minor third. I should expect to see E to G sharp, and E to B is a perfect fifth. Now I'm at the fourth chord. Is it major or minor? Well, if I'm in F major, 1 flat, B flat, I would expect to see F to A. And I see F to A, and C is a perfect fifth, because as I go right 1, I go from F major to C major and land on a major 4 chord. All right, now I'm at the 5th, G, B, D. G major has how many sharps? 1 sharp, which is F sharp. There's no F here, so everything else should be a natural note. G to B is a major third. G to D is a perfect fifth. So I know that's a major 5 chord. All right, now we're at 6. A to C. Well, if I was in A major has 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, and I would expect to see any of those. So this C should be C sharp, that's the second sharp, but it's C natural, so that's a minor third. And A to E, if I go right 1 key from A, that would be E major, so I know that's a perfect fifth. So that means this is a minor 6 chord. All right. 7 is a little bit interesting, and we'll sort of see why. If I was in B major, I would expect to see, well, number 1, 6 sharps. So I should see B to D sharp, so that's a minor third. And then B to F, it should be F sharp if it was a perfect fifth, but it's not, so that is a diminished fifth. So a minor third and a diminished fifth is a diminished chord. So 7 diminished. I can't really write the degree sign here, so I'll just leave it like that. And then, of course, my tonic triad is 1. Now, what I'd like you to pay attention to is I don't write 8 here. It's just 1. Because this and this are the same chord. The only difference is that they're an octave apart. But when it comes to identifying what is its function in a key, it's the exact same function. Great. And that is all of the Roman numerals. Now, what's cool about this is this same system of major 1, minor 2, minor 3, major 4, major 5, minor 6, diminished 7 is the same for every major key. So if this was C major, this would be the case. If I was in D major, then the first chord would be D major, the second chord would be E minor, etc., etc. Cool. Now, the next thing I'd like to talk about briefly is inversion. All right, so we have 3 notes. Let's look at the tonic triad. We have C, E, G. Now, written like that, that's in root position. If you don't know what I mean by root position or inversion, check out the video on how to play chords, which I will also link below. So this chord right here is in root position. So I just label it Roman numeral number 1. All right. For first inversion, what I'm paying attention to is the quality of the interval between the lowest pitch and highest pitch. So I would have C, E, G becomes still C, E, G, but I take this C and I put it up 1 octave. So now I have essentially C over E, meaning it's a C major chord, but E is my lowest sounding pitch. And the Roman numeral for that is 1, 6. Why? Because from E to C is a sixth. Another way I can think about that really quickly is I build my snowman. Line, line, line. This top line is a perfect fifth. Plus 1 is a sixth. Great. The next one, again, these are triads, and first and second inversion would be I first build my root position triad. I take the bottom pitch C and I move it up an octave. Then I take my E and I move my E up an octave. All right. And now what I have to ask is, what is the distance first between this G and this E? And it is, well, here's my line, line, line. Plus 1, that's a 6. So now I have 1, 6. but I can't have first inversion and second inversion be the same. So what I do now is I look at the distance between this bottom pitch and the top. That gives me my top number. And then I look at the distance between this G and this C. And I run into it being a fourth. How do I know that? Well, G to this line above, that's my third, plus 1 is a fourth. So now I have a 1, 6, 4 chord. Great. And then, of course, just to round it all out, C, E, G, right? That's a 1 triad. If I move every pitch up an octave, I still just have a 1 chord. Awesome. And then that's really just all you really have to know about Roman numerals. Now, later, we'll sort of see how inversions have more or less directional pull to them, meaning this 1 chord sounds by itself very stable when it's in root position. But when I take it and I put it in an inversion, let's just look at 1, 6, 4, it sounds less stable. All right? And another great thing about Roman numerals is they help us illustrate and talk about chord progressions independent of key. So for example, if a very common chord progression is a 2, 5, 1. You see that a lot in jazz, you see that a lot in even classical music, you see that. So if I'm in the key of C major and I want to write a 2, 5, 1, what chords do I need? Well, 2 is D minor, D, F, A. So I will just pencil in D. What's 5? Well, G is on the bottom, so it's G. And then my bottom, or my 1, I should say, is C major, which I can do this top one, or I can do this bottom one. We'll just do this bottom one. Great. Now, if I want to write that in triads, I go D, F, A. There's 2. G, what do I need? I need G, B, D, build a snowman. And then I need, for my 1 chord, C, E, G. And that 2, 5, 1 progression, 2 will sound a little something like this. Now what's great, again, is I can still take this idea of a 2, 5, 1 and apply it in any key around the circle of fifths. So let's go and write a 2, 5, 1 in another key, and let's choose the key of G major. All right, how many sharps or flats does G major have? Well, when I'm looking at on the circle of fifths like a clock is the key with 1 sharp. What key has 1 sharp? G major. G major has 1 sharp. Perfect. So now I've already just gone ahead and changed the key signature. Cool. So now I need to find out what is a 2 chord in G major. All right. What I think about is what's the bottom note of the triad? Because at that point, it's just about stacking it line, 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 or space, space, space. So I'm in G, I need 2. So I go G, A. And A is 2. So it's going to be some kind of A. 2 chords are always minor in a major key. So it's going to be an A minor chord. Now I need 5. So if I start on G and I go up 5, I go G, A, B, C, D. All right, so my second one is D, D, F, A. And then 1 chord, of course, is just G, B, D. Awesome. I'll put these 2 chords down an octave. I'll put this one down an octave. And I will write my 2, 5, 1 in G major. 5, 1. And I'll just put this up an octave because that's a lot of letter lines. And that sounds like this. here in C major. Great. Now, what you'll see, and this gives us a good opportunity to talk about inversion, is these notes are very far away from each other. So what if I used inversion as a way to respell the chords to make the notes closer together? All right, so this bottom note, A, what if I brought it up an octave? Well, now it's going to have a common tone between this 2 chord and this 5 chord. So that's pretty good. Can I make any other notes closer together? The second chord? No, not really. I could actually maybe do this is an option. But C to D is probably closer than C to A. So I'll leave that. And I'll change this to a 2/6 because I took the bottom note and I put it up an octave. Great. 5. Is anything far away or close together? Well, let's see. A would go up to sort of like B or go down to G, so that's pretty good. If I put F sharp up an octave, that's possible because it would be close to D here. What if I put D up an octave? Well, that'd be pretty good because it would be a common tone in the next measure. So that's an option. All right, and I basically just made this a 5/6. And we usually leave tonic triads alone because that root position triad is the most grounded sound. And I'll sort of demonstrate. Here's a C major chord in root position, same chord, and even first inversion. And you can sort of hear that a root position triad is a little bit more stable. So here's our 2/6-5/6-1 progression in G major with better voice leading. Great. Now another option I can do to really solidify the idea of don't make anything crazy is I can actually tie common tones together. Or I could even leave those options out. That's always an option as well. And so really what I'd like for you to see here is, first, the Roman numeral qualities are always going to be the same independent of key. The second is that inversion quality, there is a more or less stable option, and root position triads are always the most stable. The third thing is that Roman numerals allow us to talk about music in an independent of key way because Roman numerals are tied more to where the chord appears in the key rather than what the notes of the key are. And so I can still have certain Roman numeral progressions in one key, for instance, this 2-5-1 in C major, and I can put it or transpose it using those same Roman numerals into another key. And that is Roman numerals in a nutshell.